Welcome to the Good Mood Show. I'm your host, Matt O'Neill. Be sure to hit subscribe so you get a good mood every single week. And today we are talking with Bonnie Compton, who is a child and adolescent therapist and one of America's most trusted resources when it comes to parenting. This show is very close to my heart with our 4 young children. And even if you don't have young children, but you plan to one day, this is going to be a conversation you're really going to want to lean into. Bonnie has 30 years of well-earned wisdom, hard-won experience, and results-driven techniques that have transformed countless parents and kids around the world. Her best-selling book, Mothering with Courage, which could also be called Fathering with Courage, is the mindful approach to becoming a parent who listens more, worries less, and loves deeply. Bonnie, like me, is a parent of 4 children. They are now adult children. And she believes that being a parent is her most important job. Bonnie, welcome to the Good Mood Show.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm so excited to be here. I love your show.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and we were connected by the Sophia Institute. Carolyn Rivers had connected us. I know you're doing a 3-part series with her right now.
Yes, we are this month, actually.
I am a huge fan of Carolyn and the Sophia Institute. I'm sure you are as well.
Absolutely. I've attended many of the workshops there, and I'm just honored to be one of the speakers now. It's like a dream come true.
If you want to join that conversation after this podcast, just go to sophiainstitute.org and you can listen to Bonnie and her counterparts on this month's series. And what's really great, Bonnie has offered a free gift. It is her paper, Why Kids Don't Listen: 5 Proven Steps to Motivate Your Kids to Listen Now. If you are already a subscriber of the Good Mood Show newsletter, I'm going to email you a copy of that great paper this week. If not, no worries. You can download it instantly at goodmoodshow.com. So, Bonnie, this is the Good Mood Show. Why is learning how to be an incredible parent, even if we don't have children, so important to our overall well-being?
I really see parenting, there's many reasons why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, but I see the ripple effect. So whether you're a parent or not, when you interact with children, you have an amazing opportunity and responsibility to help send them healthy messages, to nurture them. It doesn't take much to turn on the news or whatever and see how many wounded, reactive people there are on this earth now, walking around, right?
And aren't all adults just grown-up children?
They are, and we're here to learn from our children. We think it's the other way around, and I probably thought that as a young mom, but they're here to teach us so many things if we're open to learning.
I loved that you said that. Yeah, I read that in your book, that our children are our teachers. And of course, as a dad, I'm thinking, well, it's really my responsibility to teach them. Well, what are our children here to teach us?
They're to teach us, here to help us grow and evolve, I believe. And so I always talk to parents about, their child's behavior. They want to focus on what their child's doing wrong. And I always remind them that's not their true essence. Their behavior is not their true essence. But if you find you're becoming emotionally charged, they're pushing your buttons. They're pushing your buttons for a reason. And they did not install those buttons, I promise you. They were installed a long time ago. They're just here to bump up against them and remind you, you have a choice and an opportunity to grow and begin to respond versus react.
That is so wise. Our children didn't install our buttons. So if they are pushing those buttons, that's our work to do.
Right. When I used to teach parenting classes, I had a mom once who had a 17-year-old son. And the thing that was driving her crazy was his lack of respect. And so that was her thing that she was holding on to. And I said, can you think of anybody else in your life that you felt did not respect you? And she said, oh my gosh, my first practice husband, as she named him. She goes, oh my gosh, my dad. She was able to see this pattern in her life. So of course she was even more emotionally activated when her son was, fighting against her, resisting her.
I'm just pondering this, that if my children push a button, that's my work to do.
Now, that being said, we would love our children just to do what we said. Wouldn't life be easier, right?
It would.
But if you find that you are being like one of your 4 kids is just really irritating you more than the others. I mean, I have parents come into my office and say if they have 2 kids, and they'll say they come in because they're so frustrated with one of them more often than not. And then they tell me the other one is a perfect angel sent from
Right.
God.
I know.
And I always say
like that, but it switches. Which one is the angel?
Well, I always said, keep an eye on that angel child because they may quietly be instigating,
Yeah.
But there's also a fit, temperament, personality fit, right? So one parent may identify or relate to another child better than the other one, if the child is lucky enough to have 2 parents. That's why it's important to tag team. So, but yeah, if you find yourself just really, look beneath. Do you feel that you're not being heard, respected? So
Yeah, and that's you had said in your book that we have to clear our past so that we can parent in the present. And it can be difficult to clear our past. I know your approach is very intuitive. So, how do you coach us to clear our past?
one of the sessions that I have with parents is tell me about your childhood. And just tell me all about your childhood. And then I ask, what do you want to leave behind in your childhood and not bring forth into your parenting? What is it that didn't serve you that you don't want to repeat? And how do you want to be as a parent? So, some people had a very good childhood. I don't believe there is any such thing as a perfect childhood. And so they want to do everything just like their parents did. I caution them, though, you are different. Your children are different. So you may want to do some of the same things, but also bring in other ways that you want to be as a parent. Or there could be someone like myself. I came from a very dysfunctional family. Our parents loved us the best they could. And I was going 180 degrees away from how I was parented. And that wasn't healthy either. And I put more pressure on myself and my kids and my husband at times. So I was trying to create a perfect childhood for our kids so they would never have to suffer.
Yeah. Somehow I knew that you had a dysfunctional upbringing because it's often that our pain becomes our greatest our greatest attribute that we can teach the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I wrote my book, Matt, and people were learning about my work with parents, they would say, I wish I had someone like you when I was raising my kids. And I said, I wish I had had someone like me because I have learned this along the way. Was I a perfect mom? Absolutely not. Do I think I was a pretty good mom? Yeah, but I could have been better.
Yeah.
And each generation hopefully gets better and better and better with their parenting, right?
So your book opens up with a story I related to so strongly about the mom that was totally exhausted.
Mhm.
And my wife and I, thankfully, the 2 of us are on the same team. We've got a very strong marriage. We love and care for each other so much, and we love and care for our children so much. So that's on my side. That I've got
That's a
Katie.
big plus.
Yeah, it's a huge, oh man. Well, I was raised by a single mom. And I just know how I can only imagine it with as tired as I feel at night, how tired she felt at night. I'm one of 4 as well. And she she was
Wow.
working. And but Katie and I will come home and it's like we worked so hard during the day. And then we have soccer practice, gymnastics, make
Right.
dinner, do the dishes, change the baby's diaper. We've got to brush the teeth. We've got to get in pajamas. We got to read the books. We got to
Bedtime ritual,
bedtime.
all of that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like, I feel like our whole life is this to-do list. And so your book opens up with a mom who comes in and she says, I'm just so frazzled. I don't feel like I'm connecting with my children.
Mhm,
What
mhm.
advice do you have for those busy parents, the tired parents?
I want to first say I have compassion for the busy, tired parents because what you all are having to do or feel that you have to do, the pressures of society and how to be the best parent and two working parents and all of that is superhuman, right? I recommend, and I recommend it in my book, create your to-do list and then drop two things off of it. That the world won't end, your family won't fall apart. So maybe, just maybe, the laundry doesn't get done. Maybe the dishes don't get done. What kids will care about and what they want to know is that you were there, that they were seen and they were heard. And as a mom, I remember saying with 4 kids, hurry up, we got to go here, hurry up, we got to, and I felt like that's what I was saying. I'm like, what am I doing? It's hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yeah, get your shoes on. We gotta go. We gotta go.
Right, right. And so looking at your schedule, I always help parents. I have them pick a typical day and usually a work week day, school day. And I want to know from sun up till sundown. And I want to see where I can help them, where things are running smoothly, where there are glitches. Often getting out the door is always an issue. Get your shoes on, brush teeth, all of that.
Getting out the door is a major issue.
Yes, yes. And so I help parents with that because waiting for your kids to change their behavior, they're going to be waiting a long time, right? And you've probably also noticed that kids don't like to be controlled. Yet,
No.
as parents, we try to control them, right?
Yes.
And what do?
Rebel.
Exactly. Resist. I don't like to be controlled. Do you?
No, absolutely. I don't. That's the last thing I ever want is to be controlled.
Right, right. And so with our oldest daughter, you could tell she bristled at just hearing me asking her to do something. She's an adult now. She still bristles if people tell her what to do. So I used to write on sticky notes, please by 5 o'clock have this done. And she wouldn't argue with the note. She'd argue with me, right?
Huh.
But when we guide our children to make responsible choices for themselves and allow them to experience the consequences of their choices, that's when we are raising little ones to become young adults, to become adults, right?
Mm.
The more we try to control, the more they push back. I can give you an example of this if
I would love it. Yes.
okay. So I was working with a mom years ago. She and her 6-year-old daughter were like this every single morning. That mom-daughter thing. And just, oh my gosh. And the little girl wanted a popsicle every morning for breakfast.
Oh, so I don't mean to interrupt, but the
Yes.
ice cream truck is parking right at school pickup on the sidewalk every day.
Every day.
Every day. And every day the ice cream truck is blaring the ice cream music. And every day our kids are like, can we get an ice cream? And I'm like,
you're like,
I have got to like slash that guy's tires so he
I
can't.
was gonna say, and you want to go up to that guy and say, move now, move.
What are you doing to us?
Can I make a suggestion with that if they're allowed to eat ice cream?
They are, of course.
Okay. Let them know, pick a day halfway through the week or whatever, that you would love to buy ice cream for them. And let's figure out a day when that's going to happen. Okay. So they're not constantly asking. They still may, well, what about another day? No, I've got this one day. Okay. So give them what they're asking for before they're begging for it.
I like that. Wednesdays,
Okay.
ice cream
Wednesday.
Wednesdays.
Ice
Yeah.
cream Wednesday. So back to this mom with the popsicle.
Yeah.
She would kick into the mom mode. That's not healthy for breakfast. Da 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 da. I mean,
Popsicles for breakfast. You
that's right.
would be the most fun parent on the
Oh,
planet.
exactly. Well, this is how they started every single day. So I said to the mom, how about if you explain to her, it is your decision if you want a popsicle today, but let's talk about what that might mean for you. Okay. And she kind of walked through the whole day and how she might feel at school, just having this sugary thing and da 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 da. And that would be her treat for the day. I walked her through. The mother had to just keep breathing deeply because she was about ready to have a panic attack as she saw the daughter walk over to the freezer, pull out the drawer, take out the popsicle, start peeling the paper off of it. And she was like, oh my gosh, I really have to let her do this. The little girl took one lick of it, covered it back up, put it back in, said, I don't think I want a popsicle, and never ask again.
Mm.
And the dynamics in the morning changed.
The daughter made her own decision and wanted to make a really good decision.
Yes. And sometimes they won't make good decisions, but as a parent, if you try to control your kid's behavior at home, what are they going to do when they're out at school or a friend's house?
Right. And we know, because I went to college and there were the preachers' children who went totally crazy,
Went wild, right?
absolutely off the rails. Like, holy cow, this person didn't come home for 3 nights in a row, and it's because they were under so much discipline. But I know you also are a proponent of discipline.
I am. One of the chapters is discipline is not a dirty word, and it's gotten this negative connotation, but discipline, disciple means to guide, to lead. Discipline I'm not talking about punitive. I'm talking about letting your children make choices. This is not free range parenting, hands off. It's letting them know. So for example, say a child, bedtime's often an issue, trying to get kids in pajamas and all this stuff. And say you have a certain amount of time for cuddles and bedtime stories or whatever that is, letting them know you love that time with them. And you're hoping that you have all of that time. Here's the pot of time. But the more you're fooling around, it's eating up that time.
Yeah.
So you decide. Now, the important thing is following through. Because there's only so much time now, we can only do 2 stories. And the child, no. And I'm disappointed too. I was looking forward to it. And I bet tomorrow you're going to make a better choice.
We just did that one well. I've got to brag on us.
You should.
We started
a hug. Yeah.
We started the original Karate Kid movie on Sunday. And so as a family, we're watching the Karate Kid, and then 8:00 hit and the movie got to kind of like a slow part, and we were able to say, okay, we'll finish this tomorrow. And then on Monday night, they were crazy at the dinner table, like just absolutely wild. And no one was eating dinner. No one had taken a bite of their food. They were just being animals. Yeah. And so Katie and I ended up eating our whole dinner and cleaning up and doing the dishes, and they still hadn't eaten their dinner. And they ended up fooling around the whole time and used up all the rest of the time that we could have finished the movie. And we said, they said, well, what about the Karate Kid? We got to see what happens. And we said, we can't see the Karate Kid because you guys didn't eat your dinner. And that was the time we had for the movie. We still haven't seen the end. They don't know what happens to Danielson.
They're still waiting. They're still waiting. And here's the thing, Matt. So many parents don't want to follow through.
Right.
I always suggest, if possible, let them know ahead of time what the consequence will be. Right. So that it's not sprung on them. Sometimes you can't, but letting them know there's only a certain amount of time. And acknowledging, I know we're disappointed too. And tomorrow night, I make a better choice. The other thing with dinner, I love helping parents with dinner because I've worked with so many parents that get to the point they cannot stand dinner time. And it doesn't take much to shift. So you're actually enjoying dinner together.
What do you recommend there?
I recommend, well, number one, kids not having so many snacks. This is
So
the
yeah,
snack generation.
of
You know,
course. But man, do they beg for those snacks?
well, I know they do. I would rather eat snacks, I'll be honest with you, than a healthy dinner. I'm a carb addict, probably.
Oh, I love chips.
Yeah,
Chips,
tortilla
especially
chips,
with a
pretzel.
dip. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
oh yeah, I could eat that all day long. And so, when the whole thing, the snack trap came out and kids started having snacks in the car. Do you remember having snacks as a kid in the car?
in the car. No,
No, no, it didn't happen before. So kids are getting snacks at school. They're getting snacks in the car. They're getting snacks. Sometimes they've worn parents down so much, they're just going into the pantry or the refrigerator getting snacks, but
sure.
they're not hungry at dinner. And dinner is typically kids' least favorite meal. So I recommend limiting the snacks in the afternoon, not taking them away, healthier snacks that aren't going to fill them up. And then saying to them, we love having dinner with you all and sitting here with you. But it's hard to even eat our dinner or have any conversations with you when you're up, down, up, down. To us, that's sending a signal, you're not hungry. Right. And so we're not going to keep saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. Would love for you to continue to join us. But if you're getting up, running around, and we say, you have a choice, you can come back and sit and eat, or, kitchen's closed for tonight. Now, some parents, particularly moms, are like, I don't know if I could do that.
Your kids will not starve.
I cannot starve my child, because what's going to happen is they're going to go to bed, but I'm hungry. I'm
Right.
hungry. I said, do not give them that bowl of cereal
They're
or
they're they're going
ice
to eat a
cream.
big breakfast in the morning.
That's
And then
right. Let them know you can have some water. And, I bet tomorrow you're going to choose to eat a dinner. So I've never had a parent, I have suggested this for years, I've never had a parent say this went on for longer than one night.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, of course, because they're so sweet and they're so little, and we just
Right.
love them like crazy. Sending
Right.
them to bed hungry is not our favorite thing to do. But
Right.
our kids are really good eaters
Yeah.
because we've stuck with that. I read a book when they were infants.
Right.
It was from the Ezos. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name of it, but he said your baby's not going to starve.
Right. Right.
And he was saying your baby's going to eat the food they need to eat. They're intuitive. They know how much they need to eat. And so I've just always remembered that, hey, these kids, a human can go 21 days without food. They can certainly go 12 hours.
Right. Right. Well, I remember one of our daughters, our first granddaughter, was like 9 months old and would still get up to nurse at night one time. And the pediatrician said, she really doesn't need this. But if you were offered warm apple pie in the middle of the night, wouldn't you take it?
I would.
And I thought, yeah, I love that. I love that. So I promise you, parents that are listening, your kids will not starve. And I would be willing to bet after one night of doing this, they understand, because it's not fun. We know from research that family meals are important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very, like
So,
I think there's a bunch of research that says families that eat together without screens have much better child behavior in school.
yes, and they're less risk takers too, kids, because they have that connection with their parent, and then they know their parents care about them and they're watching over them. And I know sometimes it can't be a family dinner, family breakfast, family lunch, doesn't always have to be dinner.
So your book had a pretty interesting chapter. We need to tell our children the truth.
Hmm.
Why is it so important to tell our children the truth?
Family secrets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean they need to know everything, and the truths that you are telling them when appropriate need to be developmentally appropriate, right? I always say kids are intuitive beings, and they pick up on our energy also. So if there's a family secret going on, they know something is going on, right? And they will often fill in the blanks if they're not told the truth. So in my own family, my dad was a loving, loving dad, and he was an alcoholic, and he was a binge drinker. So I was a daddy's girl when he was around. He often took business trips because he owned his own business. And I would hear my mom crying in the middle of the night, talking to him on the phone because he had spent all his money on alcohol and needed her to wire more money. I didn't know that he was an alcoholic. I didn't know anything. I just knew something was wrong. And so I grew up really not knowing. I think I figured out maybe when I was 15 or 16, when he wasn't coming home. And I finally confronted my mother. And I remember being so angry at him, but I was also angry at her for keeping the secret.
So how, if you could go back and coach your mom and your dad in that situation, how would you have had her and him handle that differently with you at let's say age 10?
Right. Well, talking about that there are diseases, sometimes they're physical diseases, sometimes they're diseases in our brain, and that my dad had a disease that prevented him, or when he drank, he had a hard time stopping. So when I look back, Matt, this is very interesting to me. He'd come home, he was of the Mad Men era. He looked like, I couldn't watch that show actually because it just brought up stuff for me, but he looked
Sure.
like one of the Mad Men.
Yeah.
And so he'd come home in the evening and I'd sit on his lap, and I always knew there was a certain smell. I guess I probably thought it was cologne. It was from martinis
Yep.
that I didn't realize. But I knew there was some unspoken resentment on my mother's part and anger. I didn't need to know everything about their marriage, but it would have been helpful to have an understanding that he had a disease.
Yeah, it's just so tricky if he wasn't willing to own up to it.
Right. But I knew there was something going on
Yeah.
in the family, and it prompted me to be the perfect daughter and the good girl, because I saw one of my brothers rebelling a lot
Yep.
and the other one shutting down emotionally. So I was hyper vigilant to make sure my mother was happy
Mm.
and keeping the peace, which
Yeah.
obviously did not serve me, but it related not only to his alcoholism. My mother had mental health issues herself. But you hear of people that talk about, I didn't find out until I was an adult that I had a sister.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of family secrets
Or
that,
adopted.
or adopted.
I didn't find out until so late that I was adopted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that my aunt was actually my mom.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so, yes, it's important to, and again, you have to decide what your child is capable of handling and that sort of thing.
I think I always think honesty is the best policy for sure. And I like what you said. It has to be age appropriate explanations.
Yes. But I tell parents who are talking about getting divorced, planning, but they're going to wait until their kids are older
Mm.
and acting as if everything is fine in the marriage
You see this a lot.
until it's not. And then the kids take on, it must be my fault. If they didn't know anything, they will, as I said, with secrets in the family, they will fill in the blank.
And yeah, we don't want them to fill in the blank with, because we're narcissistic as children. It's just how we are. The world's all about us.
Yes,
For,
egocentric.
yeah, for good or bad. And so when my parents got a divorce when I was 5,
Mhm.
and as a 5-year-old, I thought it was all about me. I
Right.
was I was a bad son. I needed to do something to help them get back together. I'm
Yeah,
the only kid now who's going through this.
right.
And no, I didn't have people talking with me about how this wasn't all my fault. And
It wasn't your fault at all.
I definitely internalized it, and I put pressure on myself to get my parents back together.
Yes. Yes. And, I've seen many parents in my office who have come. I used to see kids and teens in therapy, and then I kept hearing from them, if I were a better kid, my mom would be happy, my dad would be happy, which just broke my heart. And I was working with the parents as much as I was the kids. Parents
Yeah.
didn't always realize that. And I just decided probably 7 years ago to close my therapy practice and only work with parents. And it took courage, I will tell you. People thought it was crazy here in Charleston.
Yeah.
Um, and I still believe in therapy for kids if they need it, but a lot of the kids didn't need it. But I would have parents come in, they'd bring their child for me to see, child 15 years old who was rebelling. And this story, I'd always meet with the parents first, and they, divorced 10 years ago. And they would say to me, we divorced 10 years ago. Why aren't our kids over it? And it didn't take me very long to say, because you're not over it. You're still bashing each other and you're using your kids as pawns.
Right. No, you see that a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say that as a parent, we already have the answers within us if we listen. I
Yes.
I love that advice. It's how you open your book, and it's really the foundation of the way you teach parenting. How do we listen to find those answers?
First, by being open to finding the answers. So I will tell you, Matt, why I wrote this book, and it was truly divinely inspired. After many years working with parents and having them ask, what book can I read about my child and I'd say, I would recommend books all day long. I'd say you're not going to find one book that's going to give you all the answers. And one day I remember I opened my mouth and I said, I'm going to write a book for moms. And I whipped my head around like, not me. I got C's and D's in my English writing class in 11th grade, and he told me I was a terrible writer. So I grew up believing that. Okay. And so I tell parents, you are your child's best parenting expert, not me. But when you ask the questions and you listen. And so the reason I wrote my book and the way that it is designed, it has sound parenting advice, but it helps you find your own answers. Hence why there's journaling prompts at the end of each chapter. So at the end of the day, you did the best you could. And for moms in particular, so that they learn to drop the mama guilt, because that is the gift that keeps on giving and giving if we allow.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I wrote the book, designed it to help parents go through and really begin to see who their child is, not who their behavior is, to tap into their own heart, their own intuition. We are all intuitive beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you will find your own answers. I'm here to help guide and support parents in finding their own answers. And I give advice, of course, if they're asking for it. But what I may suggest to you may not resonate with you, may not be a good fit.
Yeah, and I know you do offer some mindful parenting tips at the end of your book. What are some of those mindful parenting tips that you recommend?
I have my book right here. I typically don't look at my book. It came out in 2017. So, gosh, let me see where they are. Okay, here we go. One of them is self-reflection.
Yeah.
It's important to spend time and self-reflect on who you are and how you want to be in this world, right? Mothering your child. Well, here's the one, making the connection. Research is showing us that kids who feel connected to their parent are much more willing to follow their guidance. If you think of, if you have a boss that every time you see them walking down the hall says, "Hey, Matt, did you finish this project? Hey, Matt, did you write that report? Hey, Matt, did you, would you want to hang out with them after work?"
No,
No.
I don't want to be that boss, but I find myself being that parent and that boss sometimes.
Right. Well, reminding yourself, I don't like that. So I don't want to be the parent who are, "Did you get your homework done? Did you brush your teeth? Did you? Hence why it's important to carve out the special time, right? And just say, "I want to hang out with you. I miss hanging out with you." And during that special time, I tell parents, take your parenting hat off. So if your child wants to play a game and they're cheating, the parent in us would be, "Oh, you can't cheat. Your friends aren't going to want to play with you if you cheat." Da, 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 da. No, just be curious, be silly, say, "I see you love to win. I see you love to change the rules," and let it be.
Instead of
Right.
parenting them. And what you call special time is connection time, where we're just hanging out with them.
Yes. And let your child decide what you're going to do. 15, 20 minutes, they can teach you something. You may want to go outside and lay in the grass and look at stars. Parents ask all the time, "How do I raise my kid's self-esteem?" And I said, it's not through another trophy or "good job, good job, good job." Help them master a skill, help them teach you something, help them have a purpose and make a difference in the world. Right?
Of
So,
course, I want my children to have more self-esteem. My oldest is 10.
mhm.
Her name's Harper. I find myself being the hardest on her, of course. She's the oldest. I expect the most. She's the most capable. Uh, but I want to encourage her to be her best and not always be hard on her. What's your advice for how to parent the oldest that we just naturally ask to do more?
We do. It's our firstborn and we expect and all of that. Well, you have the awareness. Awareness is the first step, right? As they say. So pausing before you say something to her, creating a space, and think perhaps, how important is this? How do I want to phrase it? Also saying to her, "Harper, I know sometimes you may feel that I'm harder on you than the other kids." Does she ever bring that up?
Her and I talk about it.
Yeah. Apologize to her. Let her know you're working on that. You want only the best for her, but you also know that this is her life and she's going to make choices. And you're here to help guide, but not control what she's doing. Also, going on daddy-daughter dates with her and
Oh,
just
I love those.
good and just
I
hanging. Yeah.
I love those. Yeah, I got that. Uh, my buddy Jim Shields wrote a book called 18 Summers.
Oh,
And
I love that.
he said you only get 18 summers.
That's true.
It's it. It's it.
It's true. And it
And
goes so quickly. There are days that don't go quickly, but it does. Yeah. And you get 18 summers, but
yeah.
you also, when they hit 11, 12, 13, they want to be with their friends a lot.
No, right. So you think it's 18 summers, but when they have a car, I wasn't anywhere around on the weekend when I had a car.
Right. Well, it's not even the car. I mean, yes, that too, but then they want to, "Can you take me here? Can you take me there?" And, so just creating, I call it the soft time, the special time, the soft time. And that's where you really get to see your kids are not their behavior. That's not their true essence. And that soft time helps you get through the hard times, the difficult times.
So Jim recommended one-on-one days.
Mhm.
And I have stuck to it for years. Maybe it's been 5 years that I've been doing this. Every month, I have a one-on-one day with one child.
I love it.
And my wife has now adopted it. And so she just took Harper to get facials. And
Wonderful.
her and Harper just went and got facials, and then they went shopping because that's what Harper's really into. She's
Right. Sure. She's at
uh
that age.
that's just who she's always been.
Oh,
Very, very
girly
into.
girl and
She's super, and my wife is not a girly girl. So my wife getting a facial and going shopping is all about what Harper wants. And so I
yes.
said,
Yeah.
Katie's really special. But my 8-year-old Cameron is not the girly girl. She's the athlete. So just last weekend, my one-on-one time with Cameron, we went on a camping trip.
Ah, I love it.
Her and I were in the woods, and I slept terribly. But we went and found our own firewood, and went on a big hike,
Yeah.
and roasted s'mores and looked at the stars, and the
Mhm.
moon was huge. I don't know if you remember last
Yeah.
weekend.
It's full moon.
The
This,
moon was
yeah.
incredible. So we walked
Yeah.
under the moonlight, and so that one-on-one time once a month with a different child has created memories, I feel like, that will last
Yes.
me forever.
And you are filling your relationship bank with them,
Yeah.
and those are the memories they will remember. I remember my mother did not like shopping at all, and I did as a little girl.
Yeah.
I still remember the day that she picked me up a little early after school or right before school ended to take me Christmas shopping. I
And
still remember
all
that,
these years later, that made an impact.
and it didn't happen very often, but I held on to that.
That's
So, parents think, oh, we need to take the big trips to Disney World or the cruises or what. That's not what the kids are going to remember. Yes, they'll remember some of it, but they'll remember the connection. I will tell you, when one of our daughters was getting married in Mexico, we were sitting on the beach and the kids were joking about, they remember now, again, this was years ago when malls were popular. And as a mom, I have to tell you, it was a great place when it was freezing outside. Let's go to the mall for kids, right?
yeah.
And I would let them go to the candy store and they could pick out a certain amount of candy. It was one of those things with all the
Oh,
tubes.
I know those candy stores.
Yes. They're still talking about that and what they would get. And they just thought, or every once in a while, I'd say, who wants an ice cream dinner?
Ice cream dinner?
I probably did that 2 or 3 times a year. Did they grow up healthy and fine? Yes. We would go and just get ice cream for dinner. And they remember that.
You're mom of the year. Ice cream dinner. That's so
I,
the way
I,
it's so
it's
the way I parent. Katie,
it's so easy
when
to
they
do, you
when they
know?
come on one-on-one trips with me, we'll eat donuts for lunch. And they're like, "Oh, we do anything with dad." But it's because I'm like, let's just be fun. We're gonna be crazy
Right,
this
right,
trip. It's not an everyday thing,
right,
right?
right.
But if
And
that hot and ready sign on Krispy Kreme is lit up,
you're
we got
there.
we got to drive through.
That's right. You got to get there. Well, the other important thing is for Katie, and maybe she does this, and all other moms listening, is be the fun mom also.
Yes.
Because as moms, we tend to, no, we can't do that, and then easily become resentful. Well, you're the fun dad, and I'm the one. Did you do your homework? Did you, kind of thing.
It's also on me as the dad to make sure Katie's a fun mom.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
She can't be the only one making sure the homework is done.
Right.
And I can't be the only one having donuts for lunch. And
Yeah.
so really encouraging her to do the facials and
Yeah.
and come up with fun stuff. And she has really embraced it.
Thank-
It's been cool to see her have this fun.
Right, right. Because so many moms don't feel that they can, but then they become resentful. For good for you, Matt, for encouraging her.
I have more work to do on it. So our youngest, like you, is a little boy. He's 2. He's the caboose. There's a 4-year gap between him and his 3 older sisters, who are all 2 years apart. I've seen in some families that the baby kind of gets babied for a long time. And sometimes the baby, the family doesn't take life as seriously. They're super fun loving, but maybe don't do as well in school and hang around the parents' house a long time after graduation. I don't want that to happen with our youngest. What are some recommendations you give families about how to keep that youngest with some good expectations too?
Well, it's funny because yes, we do have 3 girls, and the boy was the youngest, now a man, and they're women. And they probably, well, actually our son would probably admit he was a mama's boy, and his sisters would say that. Did he get away with more being the last? Yes,
Of
because
course.
by then, now for some families that's true because the parents are worn down. I was tired, but I was not worn down. I was very consistent with things, but I saw a bigger picture. I had a better perspective.
Yeah.
He was 8 years younger than our first. And so things that would have really upset me before did not. And he still remembers. I would say, what have you learned from this? He would call me in college and say, Mom, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want first? And I'd say, let's get the bad news out of the way, some stupid things that he did that kids do in college. And I'd say, what have you learned from it? And what are you going to do differently? I did not do that with our firstborn. Okay. But I will say, you can be more open-minded perhaps with your youngest, but still guide them and help them to make the best choices and experience the consequences of their choice. I can tell you now, our son is very successful, doing quite well. And so did he have it a bit easier? Probably, yeah. But things were not just done for him because he was the youngest.
Yeah.
And
And
he's fun loving and all of that.
that's what the fourth one is. Because like, look, Harper has the highest expectations as being my oldest. It's just
Right.
how it is. Katie and I were more like, we got to get this parent thing right.
That's right. That's right. We only have one chance with her. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you do learn, oh, I didn't actually have to be that hard on her in that instance. She could have learned that lesson on her own. We didn't have to teach it to her.
Right.
So we're each child after Harper, we've let them have a little more freedom, make their own choices, fall off the log into the water, get wet, rather than saying, don't walk on that log.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And you're learning, and kids don't come with instruction manuals, as I always say. And
Right.
so you're learning as you go. And yeah. So, but I wouldn't worry that your little one is going to not do well in life. Don't go down that parental road of anxiety that so many parents do.
No, anxiety is not going to help any of us.
No, and all it does is make parents try to control their kids' behavior even more. If I can say something about parents, and this was done out of love, but about helicopter parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last term I heard about that was Apache helicopter parenting, where parents are like swooping down, saving
Yeah.
their child. There are so many kids, young adults, who are paralyzed by fear of doing the wrong thing, making the wrong mistake. They haven't experienced failure. And so they see failure as the end of the world, when failure actually is an opportunity to do things differently, make other choices, right? Because parents saw their child's behavior as a reflection of their own parenting ability.
Oh,
It's
right.
not. So they controlled the child even more, right? To the point they did their kids a disservice. For example, a kid in high school who knew there was an exam coming. Parents are saying you need to study. Yes, or if they don't study, they fail it. Then the parent writes a note. I'm sorry, my child wasn't feeling better. They need to take the exam again, or wasn't, feeling well. And then the kid learns it's okay to lie. So there's so many examples of that, to the point that parents are calling professors or the dean of college and saying, you will not fail my child in this class.
Yes.
you
It-
know.
but maybe they just needed to learn the lesson that you didn't prepare and you got a bad grade. That
That's right.
doesn't,
That
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 doesn't
is
feel good
not a bad, there are natural consequences in life,
in
right?
life. In life.
There,
Right.
there is a well-known parenting person in the United States. I won't mention her name, but well-known. And I asked her, I sent a copy of my book and asked her if she'd consider reading it. And she wrote me back and she said, I cannot endorse your book because you talk about consequences. And I remember thinking, life is full of consequences.
Yep.
And just recently, I have parents who called me that went through that parent coaching, and they said, we're still struggling. And it's been interesting. And I know she does a lot of good for parents.
Of
But when
course.
she said, no, you talk about consequences in your book, and I cannot endorse consequences. And I thought,
So this may sound a little weird, but before we had kids, we had dogs.
that's
And,
not weird. So did we. Furry kids.
but training our fur babies, I learned you have to be very consistent with the consequence and the reward, or else they'll never listen to you. And so when I first started to call our dog, if I called him, I needed him to come.
Right.
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 And if he didn't, I needed him to know I was going to chase him down until he came over to me. Well, Katie was like, no. So she just called him. He wouldn't come. She'd call him. He wouldn't come. She'd call him. He wouldn't come. And it was fine with her. And then eventually he'd come over. Well, and then I also had treats in my pocket. So
Helps.
what happened is that every time I called Copper, he came to me immediately because he knew if he didn't, I was going to find him.
Well, he knew you meant it,
I meant
right?
it. I meant what I said. If I need you to come, and I didn't, I wouldn't abuse it either. I didn't want him to
Right.
come over to me all the time, just when I needed him to. So
Right.
we're out in the park. He's chasing a squirrel. I'd say, get over here, and he'd come back. Right.
That's impressive if he's chasing a squirrel and he came back.
Oh man, he's a good dog. He's still alive. He's 15.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's a good boy.
Yeah.
Katie would be like, the dog's not coming in. Matt, will you get him? And I'd go out there and I'd one whistle and he'd be back. Well, I've thought the same way about raising my children. I don't ask much of them.
Right.
I don't make many commands, but when I ask them to do something, I know I have to actually back it up because
Right.
otherwise I'm going to lose them.
Because you mean what you say. So the number one question, Matt, the number one question I'm asked by parents is, why won't my kids listen to me? Hence why I wrote that ebook that we're offering today. Why won't my kids listen to me? And I look at them and I say, because you train them not to. We all have as parents. If you knew someone was going to tell you 5 times to do something and you could just push the envelope and wait and procrastinate and hope that they forgot or that they just did it themselves because it was easier, wouldn't you wait?
Yes.
You know,
They're just us. They're just humans. They're very
that's
smart.
right. They're very smart. Kids are manipulative, and that is not a bad thing. They want what they want.
Parents are manipulative.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the things. Another question is, why do my kids lie? And I said, I had so many parents that used to bring their kids to me thinking they were pathological liars. I said, no, they're lying for 2 reasons. They don't want to do something you want them to do, like brush their teeth. Yeah, I brush my teeth. Yeah, I brush my teeth. And you know their toothbrush is bone dry. Or they're lying about something they did they don't want to get in trouble for.
Mm-hmm.
So I always suggest to parents, do not put your child in a position. Did you brush your teeth? Yes. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. They'll dig themselves deeper and deeper and deeper. Say to them, okay, your toothbrush is dry. I know you didn't brush. You need to go brush now. Or put responsibility back on them. If they did something that hurt someone or broke something, and you know they did it, don't get into, did you? No, I didn't. Yes, you did. I know you did this. What are you going to do to make this better?
Mm.
To give them a responsibility.
And this is just trusting our children more. And if you guys have loved this conversation, and please get this ebook, Why Kids Don't Listen, the 5 proven steps to motivate your kids to listen now. You can go to goodmoodshow.com and sign up for our newsletter, and we will send it to you this week. And Bonnie, I know there are people that have just loved this work. They're going to want to read your book like I have and learn more from you. How do people get in touch with you and learn more?
So I have a website, bonniecompton.com. I'm here in Charleston. I have a private practice and I only see parents. I see them in my office at the Life Guidance Center in West Ashley or virtually. The other thing, Matt, if I can mention so that people don't get confused, I have another website. It's all part of my healing work. I am also an end-of-life doula and conscious living and dying coach. So if you Google Bonnie Compton and it comes up Gentle Heart Journeys, that is the one for the grief support end of life. But bonniecompton.com is parenting.
Wow, that is heavy, important work that you're doing on the other side. You're bringing them up and you're seeing them transition. Wow.
It's a calling for sure. And that
It has to be.
maybe a conversation for another day.
It has to be a calling because
and it's a reminder to me to live, people think, oh, that must be so depressing. No, it reminds me to live my life fully every day. I lost my dad and brother 9 months apart when I was 16. So, yeah, it's
every day is precious, isn't it?
It is. And that's why I'm so grateful to you for your podcast, because we have choices in life, right? And, all the research about happiness can be short-lived, but really it's like, what do we want and how do we want to live this precious life?
With an open heart and listening to our children and
Yes.
letting our intuition guide us and being inquisitive about how we're parenting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Bonnie, I'm so glad that Carolyn and the Sophia Institute have connected us. Excited for your talk with the Sophia.
Thank you. If I can just say, the 3-part series starts next week. It's Wednesday nights, the 11th, 18th, and 25th from 6 to 7:30. It is going to be virtual. 2 amazing women, moms, are speaking about pregnancy, motherhood, all sorts of things, the 11th and the 18th, and then I'm speaking on the 25th.
Oh, so excited for this.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Matt. That was awesome.